Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a special, a very old friend of mine, Andlen, and he's one of our skill agents, and also just somebody who has also participated in the scenario design course with me. So, without further ado, here is Andlen. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do today is just really dig into his story, his journey, because he's come almost like 180 from where he used to be, and then just maybe he'll show us a little bit about where he works today and what he does. But first of all, Andlen, thank you so much for being here. This is so awesome.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure, Anna.
So where are you talking to us from today?
I'm based here currently in the Philippines, somewhere north. It's early in the morning today here. It's sunny and seems to be a good day.
Fantastic. So tell me, what is your role? What do you do? Who are your target audiences?
Well, I'm currently managing an L&D team who is specializing in developing training resources, particularly e-learning materials for external clients. So our target learners are mostly adult learners, and the products that we are creating are for private organizations. A typical product would be an induction course or a technical course. We specialize in customize. Most of the time they would have the already existing, and we would convert them into a format that would, deliver the best learning experience for their target learners or employees.
Cool. So it looks like, and I picked on you about this before, it looks like you're in your studio right now where you do some of your work.
I am.
So can you show us a little bit, like you showed the green screen?
Sure. So let me just pan my camera. So this is our humble green screen with some lighting equipment. So this is where we do our green screen recording and also voiceover recording.
Fabulous. Yeah, I love that backdrop of the sound muffling. And you said you also do explainer videos.
Correct, yes.
Fabulous. Okay. All right. So you lead a team now, but before, let's go back. Before, what was your life like before you decided to be a manager of an L&D team and an instructional designer?
Well, actually, I was a high school teacher for about 4 years. I taught music and arts. It's a very different environment because it's about young learners, and now we're dealing with adult learners, and the strategy and the design is significantly different. And then I manage a team of an IT team in a school as well. So management information system where we find solutions for the school to automate the process of collection, manipulation, and reporting from a set of data. And then I dabbled on web development. So I learned my first line of code from an online course, actually. So I enjoyed it. I find it very interesting to be able to manipulate the display using just a few lines of code. And then I tried doing some freelance work. So I did website design for clients as a freelance, and it's mostly front end, non-transactional. And then while all of those are happening at the background, I'm really into music and arts. So I did some choral conducting and some stage direction. So it's kind of a variety of different disciplines, but that really, I think, contributed a lot to what I have now or what I can do today.
You know what's interesting is that I find that people who are musical have a attraction to code, I think, for some reason. I don't know why. But
you know what, Anna? I agree. I discovered that they said music is about feelings, but it's actually about math. if you take a closer look at it, every notation or every beat and every music is based from measures. It's actually math, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, less sexy when you describe it that way, but more true probably, right? So that's cool. That's very cool. So so you're,
Mm,
let's say you're teaching, you're obviously working in your school, but you said different audiences, probably different medium.
mm,
So what's
mm-hmm.
a typical day for you then, before you knew all this other stuff?
Yeah, as a high school teacher, it's all of the time a trainer-led type of classroom training. So where we, the typical routine of preparing your lesson plan, creating visual aids, delivering it in front of class. But in fact, if you're teaching in high school, at least in our context, you spend much time in classroom management than really actually interacting with students. Well, that's how it is, but I enjoyed it. So yeah, and then I was, as a web developer, a typical day would be, me going through online, finding resource to solve a problem that I have encountered, because I did not have any formal training in web development. It's mostly self-taught. But that experience of, um, finding the solution right there and then allowed me to, have a more meaningful aha moments, if you like, or an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a choral conductor, so well, I study choral sheets, and then of course I do rehearsals, and then and a big part of it is really also, in a way, teaching the team or teaching the choir. So all of this has a teaching component, I should say, maybe in an informal way, but I see that everywhere there's an opportunity for you to learn and for you to share what you know.
That's very cool. And it's kind of neat because it's like you're always looking for ways to work with people. Hmm?
Hmm, correct.
It's so funny what you said about high school teaching, because I also was a teacher, and that is, what you said, most of the time is like 95% of your time is classroom management. So I agree. Oh, here we go. Cool. That was fast.
Hi.
I think we lost each other and it just came right back. That was awesome. So now, okay, so
Yeah.
can you
I
hear me
don't
okay?
seem to see you, Anna. Can you
Okay.
see me?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't see you.
Okay. Let me try this.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, fabulous. All
It's
right,
all good
so
now.
good. So if you're working in this, well, it's quite a challenging but satisfying role. So then, what makes you decide to take action that you're actually going now to be moving into e-learning and probably upping your skills a bit? Like, why?
Well, since the target learners or the target audience changed from young learners to adult learners, I found out that the way that I do things before does not really work well with the new learners that I'm targeting. So it motivated me to find an effective and appropriate solution, how I can get the attention and how can I improve the learning experience, the knowledge retention of adult learners. So I tried looking for resources online, some tools. It took me a little bit of trial and error, and of course, a number of months to really find what I wanted and then find what works for me.
Cool. It's weird. I think that there's almost so much on the internet that you do have to test um, different approaches, but a lot of people tell me that it's difficult because a lot of things contradict each other. So you almost have
Mm,
to
mm,
like it's a little bit of trial and error, but I get that. So
mm.
so wait a minute. So you're now teaching adult learners. How did this come about? When did you get into this adult learning role?
Well, before I joined this company, I was working with a registered training organization in Singapore,
Hmm.
and they are an accredited organization delivering workplace literacy among Singaporeans. So when I worked with that company, so I got exposed to adult learners, to classroom training, and part of my role is really to integrate technology in the way that they deliver training. So that is when I got really involved with adult learners.
So when did you decide that you needed to step up your game with e-learning? Like what was that point? Did you see something or?
Well, I like to explore the web when I got the chance. So when I'm faced with a problem or a challenge, I go to the web, do some research, and then I encountered a number of e-learning products that really got me, inspired me. And to be honest, one of those is Broken Coworker. So I got
Ooh.
really interested how it was built, and as a first timer seeing a scenario based type of course, I had that experience of engagement, interest, and aha moments. Oh, so that's how it is. So it's pretty cool to see, to be able to control the flow of a story. And then at the end of every scenario, it gets supplemented with additional information that I have the option to read. So that experience really inspired me to look for ways how to replicate that, and what are the philosophies or what are the methodologies that I need to know, or fundamentals that I need to know to recreate that. So that's really, really, really an awesome experience, Anna.
Thank you. You know, it's kind of interesting because my question was really, what happened that made you take action and make you like sign up or look for a course? But it sounds like from what you told me is that you had a great experience and you were like, can I do something like this for other people?
Correct. It started that way.
It's like you were your own like guinea pig almost.
Yes. Well, I think it's really best for me to experience it firsthand, so I would know what sort of experience I would like to create. So at least in my case, unless I tried it and it works for me and I see the value, that would really make me inspired and motivated to take action.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. I think we sometimes work with people, and correct me if this doesn't fit your concept, but sometimes we work with people to design learning that have not been exposed to a good experience or,
Mm.
and then you're trying to explain to them what it could be, but they don't know. So it's very difficult to sell them on it because they can't imagine what it's like.
I agree. So we've got a couple of clients who are used to the traditional way of delivering learning, which is, a slideshow with bulleted points. And
Yes.
when they engage us, they would essentially tell us what to do. And then it's kind of challenging to explain to them a different approach because they have not experienced it.
Yeah.
So the best way to really get them understand what we are trying to build for them is for us to show examples and for them to take some new format e-learning courses and experience them themselves, and then they would realize that yeah, the experience is different. uh, yeah, it's about the experience for us.
That's great. So, do you have examples that you like to share that we could maybe see?
I do. I
You
just
don't.
don't know how I do that.
No,
I'm
no,
using
no.
my mobile
Oh, no, no, no.
phone.
You don't have to show it right now. But if you have some that
Okay.
I could link to, that people could see your work or whatever, that's your call. But that would be wonderful because I think people need to see good stuff.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll send a link to you.
Great. So now, okay. So what kind of you're designing, learning? You see this awesome stuff. That's great. Broken coworker. It inspires you. So what are you trying to do then? What's the problem you're trying to solve?
The problem is, first, I don't know where to start. I don't know that time how to build that. So what are the processes involved? What are the resources that I need to have to build it? I'm not a subject matter expert, so I may know about technology. I may know a little bit about training, but I might not have enough time to do a lot of trial and errors. So I really need a structure, a direction where I should start and how it should go. And the second is, I want to make sure that what I know what I'm building, and I understand the effects that I'm trying to create.
Mm.
Those are the significant problem. And now that I'm in the position to manage an L&D team, I also need to know how to be able to communicate this to the team, and of course get them to work together,
Yeah.
because the team started also building explainer videos. They are that is the exposure that they had. So it's also important for them to understand the rationality, or the why of this initiative.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that I'm trying to resolve.
Yeah, I like that. It's interesting what you said, is that a part of what we do, especially if you're running a team, you need everybody to understand the vision and the purpose of what you're doing and why. It's very important.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So was there, so you're on this journey, was there an event or like an ability that would prove to you that you're like, you're going to make it, you've achieved your goal? What would that be for you?
um, well, if I'm creating something that I enjoy doing, is an indicator that I'm doing it. I'm on track. And if I created something that makes a difference to the client, then it also validates that what we do are really effective. So we had this client whose problem is having problems. um, this is a shoe manufacturing client,
Yeah.
and they have order entry encoders. So the encoders would have to encode the specifications of a customized shoe. And if something went wrong in the encoding process and they manufactured the shoe, it's a waste because there are errors. Now, when we did the training needs analysis, we found out that it's not about them not knowing how to encode or use the software. It's about some analytical thinking skills that are missing, because it's not straightforward to interpret an order document and understand what to encode in the system.
Hmm.
So when we had the product for them, we did a number of trials, and then after several months, we get back to the client and ask for feedback and how was the training helpful for them. They
Mm-hmm.
said that apart from other initiatives that they've done, the e-learning course allowed them to reduce the percentage of errors that encoders commit on a weekly basis. So we were very happy to hear that, because that it validated that what we did really helped a business problem solve. So that's what made this a wonderful experience for us.
Those are so, when you get those, you hang on to them, right? They feel so good.
Yes.
I
So
get that.
you're building a product that you have enjoyed doing, and you're building a product that you're proud of.
Yeah. Yes. And it's so important to be, because they're not, it's almost, you can't hold it, right? You can't,
Mm.
it's hard to measure. You need that feedback to be able to say, was this real, was this useful? Because you can't, it's nothing, it's intangible almost, right? These things that we work on.
Yeah.
So what, if anything, before you joined Skill Agents, what did you do to solve your problems? How did you go about trying to find these structures for yourself and processes, and what did you do?
Well, so I started with the things that I can do immediately, and one of those is find information online. So I checked out different courses available to me at that time, and one of the course that I have seen is Skills Agent course. So I grabbed the opportunity and then took it, and it really helped me, put structure to the things that I'm doing, and understand the essentials of building a scenario-based type of courses or a learner-centered e-learning. And then apart from researches, I've also attended a few workshops and trainings relevant to the skills that I would want to, possess. So I did a couple of training and evaluation training or workshops, and some, seminars here in the Philippines.
Yeah. Well, at first I'm a bit reluctant to take this because this will be my first course for e-learning instructional design focusing on branching scenarios. So although I've seen a couple of points that you have shared in the on the website of what it will be about, so I'm kind of reluctant because for us it's quite a significant investment. But the thing is, I cannot find anything similar to that online. So there are not no enough courses available at that time on scenario based training. So I think it's worth the try. So and it was right. I mean, when I took the course, it really gave me an idea and a structure, as I was saying, a structure of how to go about building a scenario course that is learner centered. But again, coming from what I saw from Broken Coworker, and you were the one who built it, and now you're also offering a course teaching us to how to create something like that is like the solution to the problem that I was sharing you about. So I want to recreate it, and I think it's worth a try. And the course did not fail me because really, which I've um, I've seen a number of insights and especially resources, and you being easily to contact, and you reach out to your students. Those are the things that really um, m- made the course more valuable, other than what is available there, other than the contents that are available there. So yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. It's
Mm.
wonderful to hear. Yeah. So now, so you're taking the course. It's you said that you liked the content. It gave you the structure, but was there anything different about it than you expected from it?
Well, initially, if I remember correctly, I think I took the course a couple of months ago. Um, so there was a feature there that you can only access a specific content on a specific period of time. So I'm not used to it because when I was searching the web, everything is available to me. Now, before I understand the reason behind it, I was kind of surprised to find that why is this not accessible to me? I have to wait a couple of weeks before it becomes available. So that's the only thing, small thing that um, made me a little bit surprised about how the course is structured.
Okay,
But
so
it was I understand. Yeah.
the unlocking of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Okay.
I was too excited, Anna. So I've finished, I think, 2 modules in just in an hour or two, and I want to know more. But unfortunately, the next is not yet available.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because if you're that kind of learner, then you kind of binge consume, but the goal is for you to stop,
Mm,
apply before you learn any more info, because then sometimes we skip steps or we think we understand them until we actually implement
sure.
them. So
Yeah.
yes, there's There is a bit of a method to my madness, but it's a good experiment. And if you would have been angry enough, I would have turned it all on for you.
But you know what? I've seen one of your webinars explaining about it, and then I've realized why it is valuable to do it that way. I think you I forgot the term you used, but after a period of time, the retention goes down, and you have to, counter that by introducing a new topic. So I just forgot what you call it, but I totally understand. And it's true because modern learners are overwhelmed with so much information, and then if you guide them how to take this information on on the right pacing, right amount, it would be more beneficial to them.
Cool. Now, what elements of the program did you find that were most beneficial to you or most useful?
Well, first are the resources. So you've provided some documents, some templates there that I can immediately take action.
Mm.
Using them, it's readily available. Second would be the way you've explained the concepts, so they are very practical. And unlike other courses where the author or the trainer would talk about concepts, but in your case, you don't only talk about concepts, you align it with your experience, so you know what you're talking about. So you've done it. You even shared with us some mistakes that you've had, and then the outcomes and the learning from that. And I think that resonates with us because we've also been into similar situation. And no, again, adult learning principles, so we learn from experience. And I think that's what unique about how you deliver your courses. And then thirdly, aside from resources, you have introduced us to other subject matter experts, to other um, website and links that are not necessarily from you. So that adds up to the value of the course. So it's not just you don't monopolize the content just from you opened us to a number of options into a number of um, things out there, which is I find really good.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad. That's really cool. Cool feedback. I appreciate that. So you had support on the journey, though. Who supported you?
Well, of course, the team. So I'm lucky enough to have a very supportive team and who are very agile, flexible, and open-minded in terms of you know. I think the first thing we had to do is to change the mindset.
Mm.
So because we see before e-learning as explainer videos, slideshow presentations, and then we have to change our mindset to look at other. I'm not demeaning the purpose of explainers or slideshows. I think they have their own purpose and part in the greater scheme of things.
Yeah.
But I want to also look at other ways and methods. And my colleagues, our writers, our multimedia designers, our instructional designers are supportive enough to when I introduce scenario based, they said, I think that's a good idea to take a look at. And then even if they're exerting effort to learn it and to try new things, and revising things until we get it right, so they have the patience and the agility to work with me on that.
That's awesome. So the change the that you experienced, was it gradual or was it like, yeah, let's go, I'm ready? How did that happen for you?
Well, it started from my appreciation of it.
Mm-hmm.
So at first I was just looking out for resources, trying out things, having a good experience and bad experience with the things that I've seen. And then when I finally decided that this is a direction that I want the team to take,
Mm.
and then I started getting their buy-in, making them aware of what our options are. So it's a process that took me a couple of months actually. So our first scenario course wasn't ready until, I guess, after 8 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
This was the intense one, right? With the was it the one with the sorry, the custom manufacturing?
That's the second project. The first project was about for an aviation company. So
Mm.
they want to build a course to teach their volunteers how to handle um, relatives of passengers involved in an accident. So
Ooh.
it's highly emotional. So they have to face with relatives, and then deal with questions and with complaints. And this happens in the airport or in the hotel lobby or in different places. So that's why when we attempted that, so we had a number of iterations when we were writing the script, because again, we have to capture as close as possible to reality what are the common questions or common complaints and how they are, delivered to the staff. We have to capture that, and what are the top common response mistakes and correct or best responses that, a staff would give. And scenario based type of learning is a perfect, way to do it.
Yes, it sounds like it.
Yeah, and we did a short film production actually. So we hired a film crew and a few actors, and we staged it in a place where we recreated the airport environment. So yeah, it's not easy, but once you've completed it and you saw that the clients are really happy about it, and it really increased their number of volunteers applying to be part of that process, something that you're proud of, it's worth all the efforts and all the time and the trial and error.
Although, you know what's crazy, Andlen, is that your first scenario is like this rock star. You go all in, film crew. What didn't I say the first one should be on sticky notes? Come on.
You'll see at my background, I got a couple of sticky notes here.
Yeah, but you took it to the 10th level.
Yeah, it's a huge risk. It's a huge risk, but I mean, we prepared for it. I mean, we took courses, we read resources, we created a number of prototypes, and we have iterated before we actually filmed it. The
Yeah.
script took a number of revisions.
Yeah, yes.
uh,
That's right.
yeah,
You got to be ready because once the cameras are rolling, money's flowing.
exactly.
Awesome. So, what were the hardest things about sticking to this new regimen of being a learner-centered instructional designer? Because obviously, people when they work or when they're trained in something, it's very hard for them to start something new. Let's say your team, because when it gets a little tough, then you just kind of fall back to what you're comfortable with, right? So how did you overcome that?
And sadly, that still happens once in a while.
It will, right? Thanks for being honest. It's truth.
Yeah, the biggest challenge we faced is how to delineate from being a content-centric design to a learner-centric or a learning experience-centric course. We're used to information dump, so we still get a lot of clients who would want to engage us, but they would send us a bunch of documents, zip files, PowerPoints, and they would expect us to go through all of them, and they would expect that all of those will be covered in the course, which is impossible if we just write a script or make it a story based. Um, so we have created some techniques how to deal with that. But that's the first challenge. How to move away from content centric to learner centric type of courses.
Mm-hmm.
um, and in reality, learners wouldn't read all the contents you put in the course unless they find it relevant to them or they have the need to know about it. Yeah, that's and up to now, as I mentioned, we still got those type of clients who would want us to cover everything, especially if we talk to subject matter experts. And well, our writers would still tend to, if they face, you're right, when they face the challenge of how will I create a conversation out of this topic, for example, and without much information given by the subject matter expert. So sometimes the context is not sufficiently provided by the client.
Mm-hmm.
So the writer would rely on the provided PowerPoint, but the PowerPoint is written in a way not for a scenario.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would do that. Yeah, but I think that's the hardest thing so far.
It is, yeah, breaking out of those patterns, especially
Mm,
when you're inundated with so much info, right? You just get a giant, like you said, zip files of stuff.
mm,
Totally true.
yeah.
So, did anyone discourage you from continuing to implement, or just unintentionally make the process harder for you? You mentioned clients. Is this part of your?
Yeah. Well, of course, we have to work definitely with clients and SMEs. We cannot
Yeah.
move away with that. But before the actual work happens, there's a number of things that we have to do to make the process, I mean, as smooth as possible. And part of that is educating them a little bit,
Mm.
exposing them to the experience that we're trying to create. And sometimes we meet clients who would discourage us to do that, mainly because they don't know what they want.
Mhm.
We face clients that, oh, I want you to build this course for us. Here is the 5 PowerPoint slides that you can take. Um, and then when we start writing the scenarios or the script, they would say, that's not really what we want. We want to add more or want to take away. So I'll give an example. So we're working with the client who want us to create a business process to document the business process. The problem is they don't have any existing resources to support the process. So all the information are from the inside of the SME's mind.
Oh,
So
wow.
part of our challenge is how can we extract those information and create a document or create a job aids or an experience that would make it official, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And if we talk to different subject matter experts, there are a couple of times that they are not connecting. I mean, they're saying different things or against different things,
Contradictory.
contradictory things. Yeah, sometimes it's entertaining to see, but
Doesn't
um,
make your job easier.
correct. And then no, you're talking to different people. You're talking to L&D of that company who acts as a coordinator between the subject matter experts and us. They want different things, but when we talk to subject matter expert, they are saying different things. So we
Yeah.
have to put things in order and really define the scope of what they want in the course. So that's one of the challenge, and that kind of discourages us to focus on the experience, because in the first place we are fixing the resources, the content.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting what you said about you, and I have experienced this before, is that I find that when you engage with a client, a lot of times you're trying to figure out what's already in place, because if, like you said, if everything lives in the person's head, you have no resources to fall back on. Your e-learning is not going to be a giant repository of content, right? Like, how
Correct.
can you make that work? You have to have something to point to. So
Hmm.
yeah, and a lot of times those projects end up being resource projects. Half of it is resource, right, and half of it is e-learning.
Correct.
So yeah, so you do a lot of upfront like scoping, because you want to get them ready, right? Like the
Mm,
one thing's not going to fix everything. They got to be, it's a whole thing. It's an ecosystem, right? But
correct.
yeah, so I get that. Like, that's why when you said, explainer videos have their place, PowerPoint presentations have their place. Everything can work together to support that, journey, but one thing can't match all needs, right? So I do I do get that, and I do get how that could be
100%. So
discouraging.
that's why during the initial discussion we set a clear expectations, because there will be clients who would say, that's why we're engaging you, because we want you to fix our business problem through training. And then so we would share a little bit of what we know, like, well, there are skills gap, there are knowledge gap, there are environmental factors, and there are motivational factors that we need to consider that will play a big part in the solution. And e-learning helps you know to solve that issue, but it's not the only silver bullet solution that would really resolve it. So there could be a number of factors from the environment that has to be changed to support the learning goal.
Yeah, I agree. And
Mm.
there's so many different things you uncover. Yeah.
Mm.
So, did you ever feel defeated or depressed or try to cheat on your commitment? Like, want to give up, start all over? I'm not in this business for the right things. I'm going back to managing choir for a living. Did you ever think that?
Yeah. Well, in my position, I think the biggest challenge that sometimes disappoints myself is when we are overwhelmed with the things to do and lose sight of what we need to focus on. There are so many distractions that happen along the sides. One would be when the team storms, which is a natural occurrence. So if the team won't communicate well with each other, so it adds up to the distractions. But we have to resolve it, this little issues, because I think my philosophy is, I want to focus on the synergy of a team. So everybody in my team contributes or adds a value onto the table. So there's someone who's expert in learning experience, someone expert in writing, someone expert in multimedia development or design, and this has to come together and work efficiently. I mean, a part of my job right now is to create that environment where everybody has a voice to talk about ideas, challenge ideas. But at the end of the day, everyone has to look at like focus on on a certain common goal and an output that we want to create. So there's always a human resource management factor in my role, apart from ensuring that the scope of work is clear. And sometimes it will make you think maybe we'll just do this project in a simple way possible instead of going through all this hiccups. Instead of creating a scenario, maybe we'll just do an explainer video just to simplify things. These are but again, we are here to create a learner-centric and a good learning experience for the client. So that what keeps us look at a goal and be on track.
If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right, Anna, because if I look at other competitors in the market, most of them, at least from what I have seen, are into off-the-shelf courses or LMS. Very few are into the business of customizing a course for a client because it's not easy.
I like how
That's
you
what
bring I like how you bring the human factor into it too, because it is a challenge to push yourself and to create things. And like you said, the other thing is that every time you have a new project, you also bring the dynamics of that client into your team, right? Working with strangers again, and that also adds storming. So you
correct.
have to have very adaptable, flexible, forgiving people, right? To keep, and you have to be one of those people as well. So that's very cool. And but that's also a big challenge, especially when you bring strangers in basically to interact with your team every new project, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that is something that the clients, wouldn't realize at first, that this project, us creating an effective e-learning course for them would require also some time and effort from their side. So, some of them would think that we engage a provider to do it for us, so we don't have to deal with with writing contents or providing we just provide you all the resources, the PowerPoints, and you build it, and then we just want to see it completed. But
Mhm.
actually, from our experience, it's intensive in collaboration with the client, because we want to make sure that we understand their expectations and they understand our expectations. And this is really a partnership more than a typical client vendor relationship. Most of the time, it works for a client because it's also an opportunity for them to learn new things
Mm.
and to see a different perspective. And that's why we get repeat business because of that, because they see us as an industry expert more than a willing full servant.
And a trusted advisor, I think, as well,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, I get that. So, okay, so when you have these challenges, do you have strategies for how to deal with your team and the difficulties of when you want to just do an explainer video, but you should be doing a scenario maybe and a little more intense? How do you deal with that? What are your
Well,
strategies?
whenever we got an engagement, the first thing to do is set a clear expectation. So we conduct like a scoping and discovery workshops with clients, but initially we talk about the goal and not about will it be a movie, will it be a cartoon, because we find that distracting. Um, so the first few sessions will be talking about what is the performance goal, what is the business problem that we are trying to address, and then we show them a couple of examples. And once those are established, there's also a part of our workshop which we call information architecture workshop, wherein we construct their contents. So like imagine it like post-it notes of different topics that they have in the course. So we will deconstruct it by identifying which of the topics are essential and can be converted into job aids, for example. So we define essential as something that the learner has to memorize by heart or by mind for them to make instant decision. So all the history, all the introduction part of the course will be taken out because they don't need to memorize the history to make a decision, especially if we're focusing on the performance goal. So we were able to differentiate job aids and essentials. And then from the essentials, we identify the priority of the client. And then we map it against the learning objectives. So that process allowed us to really zoom in to the essential content. And then from there, we will align it with the business problem, the learning goals. And then only up to that point, we will talk about how it will look like. So, so that's one, setting clear expectations. Again, being organized. Um, Now, we also need to acknowledge that we don't know everything. So sometimes, since this is a custom core service, we are dealing with different problems from different industries in different situations. So sometimes there are also discoveries from our side, and then that will prompt us to look for experts, to look for information available to us, and find appropriate solution to that. Yeah.
It's that information architecture piece you talked about. That sounds really valuable. I bet you clients that's almost like looking under the rug and finding a bit of the dirt.
Yeah.
Doing a bit of cleanup. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So how have you found that process? Do you find that it's how do your customers respond to that when you start going, okay, let's do some architecture, information architecture right now. Let's sort, let's organize. How does
Mm.
that go?
Well, all of our workshops that had that part were really got positive feedback from them, mainly because they are involved. Okay, and in the workshop they are consisting of different roles in the company.
Mm-hmm.
We got subject matter experts, we got recent learners, we got supervisors, we got the one who make decisions on the budget. It's a diverse group, and them working together, talking about what they want is a really meaningful discovery for them. It's a part that where we find it a bit entertaining to see, because they would challenge each other. This is more important than this, and somebody would say, this is more important because of this and that. So from the feedback that we got, they don't usually meet together to talk about a training problem,
Yes.
and they
So true.
don't often talk about the contents. And it's very enlightening for them. And then whatever they have come up with at the end of that activity is, it makes a little bit easier for us
Yeah.
because they already got the buy-in. They are the ones who decided it, and that sets the framework of how and what we will be putting inside the course. So yeah, it's all good, positive feedback from them.
Good. That sounds so true though, that you like people have to like engage, who work beside each other have to go like offsite or to a workshop to
Right.
by a stranger, to say, hey, let's come together and think about this and make some decisions. But that's great that you're building consensus, buy-in, all those things, and
Mm,
teamwork. And that's fantastic. I
correct.
like
Yeah.
that. I really like that.
Yeah.
So how did you, like, what's your measure of success? You had achieved your what you wanted and you were successful. What's that for you?
Um, well, typical answer would say that if client is happy and if we have solved the business problem. But even if, let's say, we failed in a project, um, and that still happens, well, the process, the discovery that we've gone through doing that thing or project, it can, there are indicators that it's still a successful endeavor. Like, um, what would be a good example? Like, if we're working on a project and we have discovered a way to do a process better,
Mm.
I would consider that still a success for us, maybe for us. Um, uh, and that gives us an insight of what improvements we need to do in our framework, in our system, to make the future process smooth or better. That's from our side. But from the client side, well, to be honest, when we talk to clients, they're coming from different um, perspectives and definition of success.
Mm.
If you talk to a business person, someone who decides on budget, their business success is to reduce overhead cost.
Mm.
If you talk to an L&D personnel of that company, the success is, making them look good in the company, because they have introduced something new, um, and they got great feedback from the learners. Sometimes some of them would, on the level one reactionary level kind of feedback, but there are a number of course of L&D would focused on the learning experience, and are we able to meet the learning objectives. So those are the different definition of success that we normally get from our interactions with the client.
It's interesting too now that you're not, when you're creating your solution, you realize that you're not only have to keep the learner in mind, but also the motivations of the different people and how you're going to almost shape that and sell it to them almost, right? Like you said, sometimes it's about your personal, how you look at the company, or it's the money that you're going to save. So I could see that being, it's a great perspective, Andlen. I love it.
Well, well, I'm not saying that this. I don't want to generalize,
Oh
Anna.
no, of course
Yeah.
not. But
Uh,
what you're basically, what you're saying though is that the motivations are different for everybody, and success is measured in many different ways. So there's
correct.
not one
Yeah.
way, right? Even for a single project, there is not one way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally
Yeah.
cool.
So okay, one project that, or one success that you were like, we did it, that was the best. What was that like for you?
All right. So a success, like apart from what I've mentioned, How
How
is
did
it
you
look?
feel? How did you
How
feel?
did you feel? Okay. Um, well, I feel proud. Okay. Um, and because when we meet new clients, when allowed, we show them a glimpse of what we have done in the past. And I think that's a good way of, easiest and quickest way to communicate to the client of your capabilities.
Mm.
Now, when I present things that we've done in the past, and when I see them, their eyes sparkle, you know, you can tell that there is an aha moment in them. It really made us feel very proud and more motivated to do more.
Mm.
And then you can tell that to the client because they would start asking, questions. I mean, good questions, and you can see the interest, and they would start to reflect it back to their context. Now I think in our product or in our subject matter, it would work if our learners would have something like that, and this is the kind of scenarios that we're looking at to build, so you get their attention. So it feels, you feel fulfilled. All the efforts, all the collaboration that you've done, you feel proud of the team, you feel proud of what you have accomplished. Yeah.
That's huge.
Mm.
So, okay, you've gone through these courses, workshops, everything's seems like you're really going for the stars here, which is awesome. So what's life like now that before you began implementing this learner-centered basically e-learning design, as far as I'm concerned?
Mm.
What's life like now?
Now, I think now is more organized. I feel more confident. Um, Before, it's kind of a bit all over the place. When I say all over the place, you don't know what you should do first and should do next. Everything is dependent on the result of the previous one. Now you have a path, you have a direction. So you have this first stage that you have to do, the second stage, third stage, fourth stage. Before you start on anything, you already have a clear idea of what you're trying to build, which I think it's important. Um, and you know what you're talking about when you communicate. So I came from different, at least different perspectives: arts, technology, teaching. And when I speak to different, you know team players from different perspective, I would be able to communicate in their language but in the context of instructional design or a learner centric design. And that helps me communicate with them easily, and set clear expectations to both ends, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Confidence is huge though, right?
Yes. Mm.
Affects, I think, how you walk in the room, right? How you show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how has this affected those around you? Now that you're coming in, you have a process, you have a system. How does that affect the team?
Okay, so whenever we got discussions, or they would consult something from me or from each other, um, this information and experience that we've had allowed us to ensure that we don't get distracted with other things. How do I say that? So, um, mm, sometimes when you talk about certain things, you get distracted. Some ideas would come in and will get you lose track of what you're trying to talk about. With this experience and information, I'm more empowered to direct the conversation and to ensure that we're answering the issue or the concern or the question that we are talking about, if that makes sense. So it's kind of
Do you,
um,
does it give you, do you find that it helps when you have structure, that they feel more, they trust you more because there's a pattern, there's a system in place? It removes some uncertainty or anxiety from that process?
Yes, it minimizes the uncertainty, because in the way we work together is, again, everybody has a voice to challenge an idea,
Mm.
and then and it will force everyone to know to explain better the idea, because they would know that it will be challenged, and then having this structure in mind, you know, allows us to cut short of the process, and focus on the big ones. So instead of talking about, are we doing this on a PowerPoint presentation or not, we talk about a deeper idea, like, what is a learning experience like,
Mhm.
instead of asking, is it video, or is it a text to speech, or is it a text on screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand that. That's very
Mm.
cool that it gets you. That's a very interesting way to frame it, that it makes you think about the more important things almost.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
yeah. So what would you suggest to anyone else dealing with the problem or challenge that you faced?
Again, we have, I think we have a saying that we don't know what we don't know, right? So, always have that mindset to, and that hunger to look for new things that would spark your interest, or would grab your attention, or would inspire you. In my case, if I have not found broken coworker, I wouldn't, I wouldn't go to the direction of scenario based learning. um, so always be on the lookout for things that would spark your interest and grab your attention, but not all the things that you see would be, um, you need to jump on them, all of them immediately. So you still need to qualify that inspiration, that idea, if that is something that you think would help you in what you're trying to achieve. In our case, we want to create a better learning experience, other than doing the traditional way of e-learning. And when we found broken coworker, it sparked my interest, it grabbed my attention. I looked for other samples, I looked for literatures, I found your skills agent course, and then, um, I need to connect what I've discovered to what I can apply in my context,
Mm-hmm.
in my role. And then we need to set an expectation that you don't need to necessarily do it perfect the first time. So you need to be agile and flexible. So this information out there are merely guidelines, or things that work for them, but not necessarily all of those will work for you. So you have to have that art of discerning what applies to you, and fine tune it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Iterate and
Yeah.
take time, right? You have to take the time to
Yes.
actually do it.
Correct. Yeah.
Sometimes months and months.
Yes.
So, what advice would you give to yourself if you were just beginning this journey? You're back in high school teaching. What would it be?
Okay. I think ability to prepare for distractions. Distractions meaning, that's something that would take your focus away from what you should be focusing,
Mm-hmm.
and manage them. You cannot avoid it. No, in modern times, no, modern learners, as we call it, are prone to information overload, to distractions. They got very limited time. Sometimes there's um, an advantage of getting distracted. I got a writer who wants to work on multiple writing projects at the same time, because he loves to be distracted. He doesn't want to have that monotony of working on a single item throughout the week. And sometimes distractions is not good, because it takes you away from the things that you need to focus on. So managing distractions, if you know how to do that from the beginning, would help you, probably cut short the learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Don't and focus on your target destination. Now, sometimes it's difficult to see yourself in the future. Sometimes, in my case, I didn't even realize that I'll be in this position 10 years ago. So, uh, and along that way, something will happen. But I want to be, what is definite is I want to be in the training or teaching space.
Mm-hmm.
But it did not occur to me that I would be in the e-learning, specifically in learning part of it. Um, so don't lose sight of your destination, target destination, and acknowledge that you don't need to become an expert of everything. So sometimes it's also part of the distraction that I have experienced. So I want to know everything. I want to know the tools. I want to know the process of writing it. And I want to know and things like that. So instead of, it's like a saying of jack of all trades, master of none, or I could consider myself as more of a generalist. Um, but you don't need to become an expert of everything. So in my position now, I was able to gather different people from different backgrounds and get them to work together, and then I add a value to that team by adding my expertise on the table, and the
Yeah.
synergy of getting everyone work together in a single goal is what really worked for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because there's this, I don't know if it's our industry or the way that the positions are listed, but you look at them now and they are just overwhelming with all these different things. And you realize that you really are probably going to be good at one or two things, like really good.
Mm,
And so being okay with not being an expert in all these things, saying, I don't know, or I am going to talk to somebody who is an expert, but this is my strength, right? And just
correct.
recognizing that, and then getting good at it, not getting distracted, like you said.
Right. Yep.
That's so true.
I mean, and a common conception that an instructional designer, at least in our context, is the one also developing the course, using the tools apart from writing. It's a one-man team, if you like. um, and some businesses can do that, will do that because they cannot afford of getting special skills or different individuals.
Yeah.
So when I just I think of whenever I'm hiring for a new position, for example, for a instructional writer, what I get is mostly an e-learning developer who uses a tool. So
Yeah.
they write, but they are not equipped with um, adult learning principle and how it applies to e-learning. So this kind of things is not very, unfortunately, abundant in the labor marketplace we have here, because they have the conception that an e-learning person is someone who writes, who develops, who designs, who implements, who even manage the learning management system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
That is a challenge, because then it's like going to a restaurant that serves international food from all over the place. What do they specialize in, right? Is any of it
Mm.
good?
Yeah.
So this has been absolutely wonderful. Now, please tell me, if people want to learn more about the work that you do, they want to reach out to you and connect. Tell me where they should go. What should they visit?
Right. So you can visit our website, siteonlinelearning.com. If you want to connect with me or just ask for simple advice or anything that I can help you with to get your organization started with e-learning projects, or mainly converting your face-to-face training materials to an e-learning experience, please don't hesitate to connect with me via LinkedIn. So you can just search Andlen Go.
And I will also put the links to your business and also the Andlen's direct LinkedIn underneath the video. It'll be in the description. And otherwise, sir, thank you so much. And if you didn't notice, everybody, the background changed. And now, we know what's cool is that, I'm always like, start every project with sticky notes and drawing, and look at behind Andlen. What is that? What is that? You gotta tell me, what is that?
It's like a draft of a course flow, we call it. So when we use a tool, we need to foresee how the flow will be like. So from which slide to which slide, and how it links to other slides and things like that. So this is just
Fantastic.
part of a process that we do.
I love it. And it creates such tangible constraints for you, right? Like, you know
Hmm.
where everything is, because software has no limits, you get lost. That's beautiful. I love that's
Correct.
like, I would put that as art on my wall, seriously.
All right.
Thank you, Andlen. This has been so much fun. I really appreciate your time.
You too. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Have a
Take
good
care.
day. All right.
Bye.